Thanks. Michelle, I'm going to get going, okay? Ooh, sorry. That was super loud. Sorry, John. Just quick housekeeping. With the Open Public Meeting Statement, in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the School District of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board administrative offices, sent to the clerks of the Chatham Borough, the Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP. Mr. DeQuilla, do you mind taking attendance?
Mr. Gilfillan. Here. Mr. Arnick. Ms. Ciccarelli. Ms. Clark.
Here.
Mr. D'Alessandro. Ms. Kenny.
Here.
Mr. Smith. Here. And Ms. Weber.
Here.
5 present and accounted for. That's a quorum. We can proceed.
Excellent, thank you. If you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't know where the flag went.
Virtual flag, it's usually over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Fantastic, thank you. So I don't have much in the way of the President's comments, just a congratulations to the staff and administration on another successful graduation. Thank you, Mr. Gilfillan, for taking the reins and doing the speech and handing out diplomas, and thank you to the students who were wonderful. And it's a pleasure to have this meeting without a mask on 18 months later, so that's enjoyable. So right over to you, Dr. LaSousa, for the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Weber. The first item here is a housekeeping request from the rising senior class officers. So I'll invite the senior class officers along with Mr. Groh and Mr. Rondo, whoever is going to speak, to approach the microphone.
It's over there. Bob, you can tell them to slow down. Yes, we're only using the story, Mr.
President Weber and members of the board. As representatives of the class of 2022, we represent 325 rising seniors who have recently endured one of the most uncertain years of their lives. The existing difficulty associated with junior year coursework, compounded by serious health risks posed by the pandemic, created a challenging learning environment that will likely be remembered for years to come. The story of our class has rarely been one of resignation. Since entering CHS in September of 2018, our student body has repeatedly demonstrated their steadfast commitment towards improving the community, their academic grit, and their athletic ability, especially in the worst of times. Our class's many Key Club members, Girl Scouts, Eagle Scouts, and Chatham Emergency Squad cadets constantly demonstrate their collective commitment to making Chatham a better place to live. Besides being upstanding citizens, our class has also shown themselves to be an integral part of not just CHS, but the town as a whole. Whether it be as a lifeguard surveying Colony Pool, or a cashier behind a register on Main Street, CHS students unquestionably serve as the basis of Chatham's social fabric, positively influence our daily lives as residents of the borough and township.
Academically, our students have continued to make Chatham one of the top high schools in the U.S. Creatively, our class contains dozens of passionate writers, artists, musicians, and performers who have contributed yearly to CHS's many theatrical productions since 2018, with the 25th annual Putnam's County Spelling Bee, CHS's most recent production, bringing in widespread praise and selling out for 3 of 4 shows. From scientists to mathematicians to writers to performers, this year's rising seniors represent a highly diverse group actively committed to enriching Chatham intellectually and culturally. Chatham Cougars have also excelled in sports, winning numerous accolades from New Jersey, from the tennis state crown to the boys and girls lacrosse teams, winning state or sectional competitions, to the track meet of champions. Our students have made a name for themselves, breaking multiple school records in their respective events. The class of 2022 contains countless wealth management athletes and is a wellspring of physical talent, garnering numerous scholarships from various D3 to D1 schools, thus continuing Chatham's athletic legacy in the high collegiate level.
No.
We believe the privilege of open campus is paramount to our development as high school students. Our class has demonstrated and will continue to demonstrate the necessary maturity required to maintain open campus privileges. Commitment to succeed in all areas will extend to the responsibility that comes with being granted said privilege. We truly believe that our class has demonstrated their dedication towards improving themselves as individuals, our school community, and Chatham as a whole, which is why we hope that you will grant us the honor of open campus. Thank you, class of 2022.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. If we could just hear from Mr. Grow and or Mrs. Gironda.
Thank you.
What say you, sir?
I say that this class has, as they've indicated, been through a heck of a lot. Each year at this time, we have our rising senior class officers that come in and speak about open campus and the importance that it is for kind of coming of age for the rising senior class. Historically, I've been here about 18 years, and we have not had incident that has caused us to shut down open campus or to discipline kids from open campus of things that they were doing during school hours off of our, away from school. Again, this class has endured a lot. I think they certainly recognize the privilege that open campus is. They've spoken about a number of different accolades that the kids have achieved over time. They take school seriously. They take the privileges seriously. We are also a school building that fortunately has very few discipline issues. We have a respectful student body. So I fully support the rising senior class to be approved for open campus. And administratively, we'd be monitoring that throughout the course of the year and talking to students whom we need to speak with if there was something that had occurred. But otherwise, I think as a class, they're well deserving of the privilege.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Grow. I appreciate that. Mrs. Gironda, did you have anything to add, or you're good? Good with that? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Gentlemen, thank you very much for the letter. I just wanted to point out, as I do to each class, that while you've absolutely deserved the privilege, with that privilege comes a tremendous amount of responsibility. And you've shown fantastic character, your entire class, to this point. But you've probably heard the saying that character is really displayed when people aren't looking. So when you're off campus, I would ask that you and your classmates continue to look out for each other. If you see something that's amiss, either, if you think you can handle it yourself, great. If you can't, please, raise it up to a trusted adult. But as you're off campus and you're driving around, it's a tremendous responsibility. So please, please keep an eye on each other. If this year has taught us nothing, it takes a village to make this all work. So please continue that responsibility, and just I ask that you, take good care of each other as you would a sibling. Does anybody else have any comments for our two seniors, rising seniors? Seniors now, the big cheese. Excellent. So we don't take action immediately right now, but it's certainly, a privilege that you've earned. So there's no formal board action, but, it's up to Mr. Grow and Ms. Gironda as long as the summer goes well. You should be out to lunch first day in September, driving very, very, very carefully.
Especially on long ones.
Thank you, gentlemen. You don't need to be polite and stay either. We will not be offended.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Excellent. Dr. LaSousa, back to you.
Sure. The other bullet that's been on every agenda probably for the past 15 months or so is just the status of schools and what to expect in the coming weeks and months. So again, not to sound like a broken record, but we still have not received any guidance from the Department of Health or Department of Education about what the requirements are for school next year, despite the fact that many of us have vocalized the urgency with which we need that guidance in order to properly plan and prepare for the year. Last year, the road back document that the DOE pushed out to all school districts came on June 27th. So it's hard to believe, but we're almost at June 27th again, and we expect a similar time frame where we'll find out by the end of the month what the rules of the game are for operating in the fall. It sounds like from the grapevine that there will be a lot of flexibility in what we can do. The intention in the planning right now is to return to school as normal. There are some questions out there that we will still need answered, such as what will be the masking requirements for students and staff. But that really is secondary to any kind of distancing requirements that we have. And distancing at lunch, if it is maintained the way it is now, is what is most problematic for school districts. So many of us are making our opinions known that we need to have maximum flexibility and we need to have students in school all day, every day. So that's all to come, and as soon as I receive that guidance, we'll be discussing it, and by the next board meeting, I'm sure we should have it in hand. In addition to that, we've had discussions, preliminary discussions with the policy committee about other plans for next year. We have a meeting scheduled with the full board for our board attorney with regard to requiring staff members potentially to be vaccinated. That's just a discussion. That's no decision has been made. And we'll be doing that in the coming weeks also. So hopefully by mid-July, we'll have more of a sense of what school will look like if it looks anything different than a normal school year come August 30th, which is the first day of school. And then I'll just sum up by echoing you, Ms. Weber. Graduation was very nice. I appreciate what the high school has done over the past couple of months. They've had to adjust multiple times as the guidance has changed from the DOH and the DOE, and it was a lovely ceremony. We didn't restrict access to the guests, so a good number of folks turned out, I thought, and other than the very strong sun, it was a great evening.
It was fantastic. Thank you. Mike, just a quick question to put it on the record right now. Right now, the Department of Education has said, or the governor has said, that there is going to be no virtual option in the fall, correct? Does that still stand?
The governor said there will be no virtual option for parents to select in the fall. So one of the many areas of question that we have as superintendents is, what does that mean specifically? Can school districts utilize remote instruction as they think they may need to? So for example, if a class has to be quarantined, can we implement remote instruction in that scenario? Or if a student has to quarantine, can we do so? Would we look at home instruction programming and schedule students to be scheduled virtually if they have some type of medical issue that prevents them from coming to school? We know now that we can't use virtual instruction for snow days because you have to have a state of emergency in place, and you have to have at least 3 days of school disrupted before you could do something like that. And there is no public health emergency any longer in New Jersey. So there are lots of questions about the degree to which we can implement virtual instruction now that we've lived with it for a year.
Understood. Okay. So no parent option is all we can hang our hat on right now. Okay.
I think so.
Excellent.
And
Michelle?
I don't know how to work this. Is it on?
It's on. Go ahead.
Okay. So I would hope that if it was punted back to the district for virtual, discussion or any type of decisions, that we can discuss it as a board or in policy, because I think that's something that we would need input and get some
Yes.
guidance on as well,
Yep.
because it has its challenges.
It's complicated, and
instructional standpoint.
it's complicated for a variety of reasons.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mike? No. Great. Anything else, Dr. LaSousa?
I think that's it.
That's it. Peter, over to you.
Just very quickly, on the construction update, the contractor will be going to Cougar Field on this Wednesday to verify the plumbing issues and finalize the last requirements, and that construction on the field house bathroom will start very soon, and contractor's been informed that needed to be completed by the beginning of August, so we have no interference once the fall sports start middle of August.
Okay.
And we're waiting on the updates from Tremco on the start dates for the roof construction at Washington Avenue School, the middle school, and the high school. And that's all.
Okay, excellent.
Be a busy summer.
Yeah, we'll just keep track of the construction at Cougar
Will do.
so we don't interrupt this fall athletics. Any questions for Peter on any of that? No? Excellent. Very good. So moving over to committee reports, and Ms. Ciccarelli is out, so I'm just going to do the report for her. So personnel met last week, and we discussed the staffing for 21-22, and that's on schedule, and the HR department is still securing additional staffing as is needed. We covered an employment matter, and we also talked about the potential for the return of our student teaching program, which was put on hold for a little bit because the Department of Education had changed the requirements. One of them, correct me where I go off trail, Mike, but they required the student teacher to videotape our students, and we were not really in favor of that. So until they tweaked it, I know we're working with the graduate school at Rutgers. So will you have an answer by the fall, or is it still being worked out?
We're in the process of already getting student teachers in the pipeline.
Great. And the requirement to videotape students is no longer,
That varies depending on the university and college that is placing the student, and a number of them have signaled their willingness to work with us to try to do all of that in a manner that we feel comfortable with.
okay, fantastic. Thank you. That's it for the personnel. If nobody has any questions, Ms. Kenny, I'm going to toss it over to you for curriculum. It might be on.
It might be on. Okay, first everything.
Daniel Dagunas reviewed the LMC services and the schedule she has built with the teachers to ensure the same level of programming. And we also met with Stacy Winters, who did a review of the math programs for K to 5. The current program that we have has currently been in place for about 10 years, and as is our normal practice, we are looking at piloting a different program that better meets our needs and advances in technology. And that was it.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Grow, can you hear us in the audience fine? You can. Okay, very good. Thank you. Just wanted to double check. Matt, over to you for finance and facilities.
Yeah, we met last week, a number of different issues. Went through the capital work we're doing for this summer. As Pete said, most of it's all around a number of roofs around the district. Also started the discussions in terms of what we're going to do in terms of capital investments for the summer of 2022. Mike and Pete are going to put a number of things together for that in terms of their wish list. There was one issue around the Washington Avenue School boiler room. There was the requirement for repairs and replacements of what's called the expansion and condensation tanks. But due to the timing of it, we have to actually go to the Executive County Superintendent to approve an emergency use of funds of $90,000 in order to take care of that. That's purely a timing issue more than anything else, so Pete's working on that with the county soup. Pete took the initiative to go out and try to look for a local recreation grant that we could use potentially for the redoing of the track at Cougar Field. We did speak about operations next year being fully normal. Hopefully they will be. Quarantine, bye-bye. The state and federal government has expanded the reimbursement for all student lunches, so we did approve providing lunch to all K-8 students that want quote-unquote free lunch. And then we brought back the R word, being referendum, that we were looking to do pre-pandemic. And we discussed this because you saw in what we're doing with all the capital work this summer, a lot of that stuff was supposed to be in the referendum around the booths. And with the fact that we were able to do some things this year because of how funding worked out through the pandemic, and the fact that we actually came out of this pandemic in much better shape than we had thought we would, we are going to potentially look at now going back and revisiting a referendum for some of the last things that we feel as though the district needs to get everything behind us. When we started this years ago, emphasis was classrooms, the refit of classrooms, the refitting, and the emphasis on the arts, some sports things, but there's a lot of stuff that we feel there's some support for. This will be handled much like we did last time, which will be with full input from the public. We will put everything we did last time out to the public in terms of what initiatives would find support, what would not, some structure issues, et cetera. Some of the things we'd like to do in particular is we do believe there needs to be some investment in athletic fields, some security initiatives that we have supported for a long time. I would guess around, I think over half of it we've been pretty much funded now out of operating cash instead of the referendum, so it kind of gives us a lot more flexibility this time to go into a wish list versus a needs list. So we're going to start investigating that. We've asked Pete to do a little bit of work in terms of some costings, but we would hope this would be a good time to do it because of the financial state of the district. I think we as a Board of Education have brought in below what I call par tax increases. So we've been, as fiscally stringent as we possibly can, and we think we can dip into this wish list for very low cost, a very low ask to the parents and the taxpayers of Chatham. So that's it.
Excellent, thanks. Does anybody have any questions for Matt? I know we're a little short on board members tonight, but maybe we could pick up additional questions at the next board meeting. Excellent. Mr. Smith, do you mind carrying the torch for policy?
Absolutely. Policy met on Monday. We discussed the issue of vaccinations at length and the policies that would need to be modified based on the direction we choose to go. We also discussed medical reasons for not being vaccinated and how that would look. We also modified and/or abolished a couple of policies related to COVID. They're both in the docket tonight. One is the Federal Family First Coronavirus Act, and the other one is a modification to the daily screen that every parent has to do. And we approved that the parents would only need to complete that student form at the beginning of each programming session. And that is also on the docket tonight for first, second reading and approval.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions on that? And the first comment that you made, Mr. Smith, on vaccinations, that was related to employee vaccinations?
Correct, what Dr. LaSousa just described
Yep.
before.
Okay, I just want to double check. Perfect. No additional questions? Excellent. Does anybody have any liaison reports?
I do.
Oh, go ahead, Letta, thank you.
This is for CEF. They would like to congratulate all of the students, teachers, and administrators for successfully completing an unprecedented year. CEF is also proud to have supported the 2021 TEDx and congratulate all the student participants. They'd like to thank the community for their support and remind everyone that it's not too late to give to CEF. The spring appeal closes on June 30th, and you can visit the website at chathamedfoundation.org to give or learn more about them. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And I do have a performing arts report. The Visual and Performing Arts Department had an incredible run to the end of the 2021 school year. The department put on a live concert for every ensemble for grades 4 to 12, and the high school musical, a middle school musical, and a K-12 virtual art show, which is phenomenal, given the landscape of this year that we were able to accomplish all that, and the weather cooperated for the most part. We were able to do it right outside. It was really great. We're also grateful to be able to bring our community together to celebrate our student performance and artists. We look forward to an exciting 21-22, starting with our summer rehearsals for marching band. And we would also like to congratulate Ms. Lori DiBiase on her retirement and thank her for her dedication to the music department and her students at CMS, which is where she taught prior to moving over to Lafayette, and her students at Lafayette. So thank you to Ms. DiBiase and all of our teachers that are getting to retire. I'm jealous every time I say that. Any additional? The only other one I would mention for Ms. Ciccarelli is we did have a meeting scheduled with the borough to talk about pilot and sharing some of the pilot payment in lieu of taxes funds, but that had to be rescheduled. We had conflicts, so we'll get that back on the calendar sometime over the summer. But other than that, anybody else? No? Excellent. Perfect. So, Mr. DeQuilla, can you tell us who can vote on the May 17th public session minutes?
All 5 board members present can vote. The
Excellent.
only board member that was absent on May 17th was Mike Ryan.
Okay, perfect. So all those in favor of moving the minutes of the May 17th public session?
Okay. Make a motion.
I'll duly note that the motion passes 5-0. I just need a second to Ms. Weber's, okay, got it.
Mr.
Thank
Smith
you.
seconded it.
Sorry.
You just missed it, Peter.
I
We're that efficient.
You never cease to amaze me.
Excellent, thank you, I appreciate it. So we have our first opportunity for public commentary. Notice of the public comments Hearing the citizens of the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers will be asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. And if you wouldn't mind signing in and introducing yourself, that would be fantastic.
Am I doing 3 minutes?
I'm sorry.
Am I doing it at a time?
Yeah, if you don't mind, just. Hi. Oh, yeah, go ahead. It's all yours. The floor is all of yours now. Thank you.
Hello. It's so nice to meet together in person instead of looking through a screen. Hello, board and friends and neighbors.
Would you mind introducing? Sorry.
Yes, my name is Rez Estevez. I live around the corner on Southern Boulevard. I have kids in the school district. This is a call for accountability and total transparency to expose CRT, or critical race theory. It's a way of viewing our culture primarily and nearly exclusively through race. It is anti-liberal. It opposes equality under the law, legal reasoning, Enlightenment rationalism such as the scientific method, and neutral principles of constitutional law. Under CRT, individuals aren't capable of reasoning with each other as equals. Instead, each person is only a representative of a racial construct that is part of a permanent struggle between oppressors assigned to white people and the oppressed, blacks or other non-whites. The context changes from situation to situation. CRT's educational goals include, beginning at a young age, teaching children that America at its core is an oppressive racist system, uniquely designed to exploit, harm, abuse, and even kill non-white people, to train kids to see themselves first, foremost, as racial avatars, and by inculcating in children a sense of their destiny as a member of an oppressed class or an oppressor class. This is an ideological lens where it becomes compulsory to think race-based primarily and nearly exclusively, and it's frequently hidden from parents, which is why the call is for transparency and exposure. CRT is anti-merit. It seeks to abolish objective measures of success to avoid stigmatization of failure, to treat children of different races differently in a classically racist hierarchy it asserts. So the bottom line is that to oppose critical race theory is to be pro-human and pro-individual. CRT advocates wrongfully assert that to oppose CRT as racist, nothing could be further from the truth. And I think you all know this. As many principal administrators, teachers, and members of our community know and just really don't believe in this weird stuff. Many are frightened by a weird, noisy, tiny minority who threaten to do all sorts of things. So this is a call to use our traditionally liberal means, airing out CRT and exposing its arguments, decoding its language, explaining its ultimately totalitarian logic to beat this illiberal menace that is encroaching further in the school district. I was very surprised to learn how many of the courses of my children included CRT elements overtly or implied. And this is why I'm making this call for increased transparency and visibility. You don't want parents to ultimately conclude that because of this weird indoctrination, parents will pull their kids from their school district or avail of other remedies. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Rez, I'm sorry, is there a sign-up sheet back there? I apologize. I don't even see a podium.
Do you have, Joe,
Oh, there it is.
do you have the cards?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I doubt you'll need it.
Yeah, that's just in case.
Sorry.
Hello, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to come and speak tonight. My name is Kyle Roberts. I'm a Chatham resident, and I have a 6-year-old child in the Chatham school system. I'm here today to express my opposition to the continuation of the mask mandates in Chatham schools for the 2021-2022 school year. For the past 15 months, my family and I have followed all the CDC and local health guidelines, including wearing masks, I understood the need to follow those guidelines as we worked to get the pandemic under control. The pandemic is now under control. Schools committing to in-person learning next year is not enough. The mask mandate should be lifted as well. The argument that it's only a minor inconvenience for children to mask their faces for 7 hours a day, Monday through Friday, is not fair. I'm not a scientist or a medical professional, but as a mom that has observed the impact of the mask mandate on my son for over a year now, I know that a child having to wear a mask over their face for prolonged periods of time has contributed to real negative behavioral, developmental, education, and health issues. I see the psychological impact of what my son having to mask his face has done to him. My son has become hesitant and less confident in himself when outside our home. He has a sense of fear about the world around him that he should not have at this age. He even once ran to me asking me to please ask his babysitter, whom he has known for over 4 years and sees regularly, to please ask her to take her mask off when she came to our home masked after we returned from travel outside the state during spring break. It clearly causes stress, distrust, and fear. It is a scientific fact that exposure to facial cues and facial expressions is important to a child's brain development, and that it helps develop skills that allow children to share and adapt emotions with their relatives and peers. Every day that we require our children to mask their faces in academic and social settings, we inhibit that brain development. People of all ages, particularly children, rely on others' faces to help them navigate their social environments. Social development is a critical element of health. This is just specific to the psychological impacts. There is a lot of public information available about the negative health impacts to wearing a mask. As of June 16th, 54 school districts around New Jersey have officially stated a lifting of their mask mandate for the 2021-2022 school year. Those 54 schools have officially stated they will take a mask-optional approach next year, with 5 requiring masks in hallways only. I've personally sent notes to the Chatham School Superintendent, as have many of my friends, asking what the Chatham mask policy will be for the 2021-2022 school year, only to be told we are currently following the state and local guidelines, but you can be assured that we will offer in-person learning. Again, in-person learning is not enough. Why can't Chatham schools tell us today that we can expect a mask-optional school environment in September? The decisions that I make about school and the work I do to prepare for my son's next year's school doesn't happen in July. I, like most parents, make decisions about school way before the current year even ends. It's not fair to me as a parent or to any Chatham parent to be made to wait any longer to find out what Chatham's policy will be regarding the masking of our children at school this coming September, which is literally just over 2 months away. It's also not necessary. The science is clear and the data is clear. Children experience lower infection rates, and as important, even those that do test positive are less likely to transmit COVID-19 or need medical intervention. In addition, at least 70% of New Jersey residents have been vaccinated, including teachers and school administrators. Teachers and school administrators that have chosen not to get vaccinated should have the option of continuing to wear a mask this coming school year. Why should children have to be forced to continue to wear the mask to protect others that have the choice to get vaccinated when it's clear that children aren't the spreaders of COVID-19. Parents that are still fearful of their child contracting the virus should have the option of masking their child's face this coming year. That is their right. And it should be my right as a parent to make a different choice. Again, based on the science, the data, the low positivity rates across New Jersey, and the percentage of people already vaccinated. Based on Governor Murphy's current order, masks are optional all across the state of New Jersey, with the exception of schools. My son and I are able to walk through grocery stores unmasked to shop for our food. My son and I are able to walk through the mall, in and out of retail stores, unmasked to shop. My son and I are able to walk into restaurants all across the state of New Jersey, unmasked, to enjoy a meal together. Those are all indoor spaces here in New Jersey where I'm able to exercise my right as a parent to choose whether to mask my child's face. I respectfully ask the Chatham Board of Education to write to Governor Murphy to ask that he update his executive order to include mask-optional school settings across New Jersey. Again, everyone should have their own choice. I am asking for the Chatham schools.
If you don't mind, if there's a way to summarize.
I am finishing, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
I am asking the Chatham schools to allow me not to mask my child while he is at school this coming year. At this point, there's no reason the mask mandate can't be lifted. Thank you again for giving me the chance to speak.
Thank you, Kyle.
Do you want me to try to put in
Thanks, I'm just going to write down.
What's that?
Yeah, I just wanted to write down. I went to write that down. The total.
727.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board and the superintendent. My name is Nicole Lewis. I have 2 children, ages 5 and 9. I wholly agree and support with the women who preceded me in their statements, and I thank Dr. LaSousa for his humble communications throughout the year. Both of my children will return to Chatham schools this fall. In 2020 and 2021, our children, the schools, the parents, teachers, and administrators did what was asked to do. We did what we had to do, and we got through it. I'm asking you now to please protect my children, support our education, and remove the mask mandate. This summer, Chatham's teachers are still working. They are doing their best to support our children's education inside of rules and policies that defy logic. Consider this situation. Children are being asked to wear masks even when playing woodwind and brass instruments. The solution, children are asked to modify their masks to make them suitable to play the instruments. This is a simple modification to the mask, and it was used just today. Even in summer enrichment coursework, you simply cut a slit in the center of the mask to allow the child to blow into their instrument. This way, children can wear a mask and participate and play their instrument. Clearly, our teachers are extremely inventive. They're also desperate to give our children every opportunity despite the situation. If this solution seems absurd, it is only matched by an environment that bore it. The mask rules and policies defy logic, and those rules are in your control. Now I am asking you to allow these children to just cut that slit in the center of their mask larger. Cut the slit large enough that their mask falls off and we can see their faces again. I would ask that you would support our teachers and return our children to an ordered, logical, and realistic environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Any additional public comments from anybody else? No. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to close the first public commentary, and if something comes to you, there's another one at the end. So for the CRT, we could take that up in policy and curriculum. And Mike, I just want to ask a question. The masks, as a board, I think the general consensus is we don't anticipate it wearing masks in the fall unless our Department of Health. And just a reminder, of our 6 buildings, 3 are in the township, 3 in the borough, and we have 2 different Department of Healths that we have to listen to, just by way of explanation, for lack of a better term. So, Mike, if you could just talk a little bit about the requirements currently and what we anticipate for the fall.
Yeah, I don't know what to anticipate in the fall, which is why I started the meeting by saying we're really chomping at the bit to get whatever guidance and whatever rules we have to follow is. It's not true that school boards and superintendents can just click their fingers and decide whether or not kids wear masks. All of you take an oath when you assume the role of Board of Education member. That oath involves upholding all the regulations and statutes that govern school districts. Executive orders from the governor fall into the mix of what we have to do when you sit at these seats. And as superintendent, I have to do something similar with respect to my certificate and my credentials and whether or not I continue to hold them. And they become jeopardized if I knowingly and willingly ignore state statutes, state regulations, executive orders from the governor. So what's happened in the past month is that because there have been conflicting statements made by the governor at times, some statements that violated or at least contradicted the previous executive orders, some superintendents and boards have just decided to go their own way and ignore the executive orders that are in effect. We've received clarification right up until the last week of school from the DOE, from our county superintendent, what the mask requirements are. Masks are still required in the school setting, except in certain situations like excessive heat, as you saw today. But outside of those particular carve-outs, masks right now are still required. This is one of the questions that we need answered for the fall so that we can understand if masks will be optional for everyone, if they'll be optional only for folks who are vaccinated, and what the rules will be. But the plain answer is that we are required to follow the directives of the governor and the departments of health and education and so forth. Last year, we couldn't open our schools at all unless we demonstrated to the Department of Health that we had clicked off all of the boxes in the checklist that they provided us about reopening. And we're expecting something similar, and we'll likely have to submit some type of plan to the county superintendent, and then they will determine whether or not we fulfill all the requirements in order to keep the schools open and to what extent we can have a lack of distancing or lack of mask wearing.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, but
Okay, Mike.
it's really a personal opinion, but it's one thing that we are required to follow the rules of the DOHs, but it doesn't preclude us from delivering a statement of our belief that we fully support a non-masked program. And I personally, if the board would do it, would gladly write that letter. I think I probably said this 6 months ago, we should be getting rid of masks. But, I think it behooves us to make our opinions known in terms of how we feel we can structure ourselves as a district. And if we're comfortable as a board, we can write up a letter to the DOH, to Murphy, to every single one of them, saying this is what we feel, we believe we can do. And I think the administration can do that. But, it's one thing let's not sit back and let them just dictate what they think is correct. Let's go to them and say, we feel we can do it. And we've been talking, we have a board, honestly, months ago we started saying we need to be more proactive in terms of trying to set the agenda. Stop sitting back and let the state and the DOHs force us onto this stuff. So let's, I'd like, no matter what it comes down to it, I think we need to make what we believe is correct known and make our opinion known to these people who are making these decisions, that we feel as a district we can manage this process. And we did a hell of a job this year, but we also, they all said follow the science until it was inconvenient to their agendas and viewpoints. So let's follow the science. I don't know what your all opinions are. My opinion is get rid of the masks. And
I think yes.
Ed, you can write that. and the patch tomorrow and deliver it out to Murphy.
He's not on the patch,
But,
he's the tap.
you know, let's just make our opinions known.
I also
Yeah,
think.
so I
can
think, so
just-
of course, that is what you can do as a Board of Education. You can draft a resolution. Other districts have done that. Many other districts have done that. I'm involved with a number of organizations that hold meetings with folks from the governor's office or the Department of Education. We've talked about some of the, you know, seemingly obvious contradictions, like two kids can wrestle each other, you know, and roll around on a wrestling mat with no masks on, but then if they're sitting next to each other 3 feet apart in a classroom, they have to have a mask on. So a lot of the channels of the educational community are fully engaged and have been pressing and pushing for updated guidance. There are countries that have never had masks on the kids. They didn't think that that was appropriate, you know, educationally. We've discussed that in some of these meetings. But as a board, that's your discussion. You've drafted resolutions on occasion from time to time, making your opinions known about things, and you could do that again right now.
Mike, one thing I want to inquire about, so obviously I feel like last June, July was like 100 years ago, but I felt like the initial guidance, it changed. It was changing up until the day we opened school. And so I want to remain hopeful, but at the same time, I want to see, and I could be completely off base on this, but is it possible to speak to our board attorney and draft up, just like we opt in and out of the directory each year, or I don't know what we opt in and out of, but whatever, that's an example. So can parents legally have the opportunity to opt out of their child wearing masks, and we can cover ourselves by saying we know if there's X, Y, and Z risk factor, but my 6-year-old, my 15-year-old, you know, that we will take the kind of to say to the parent community, it's your decision to wear a mask or not for your child, and then it covers us as a board, and then we carry on. And I think we kind of have both coverage, you know, and that, by all means, anybody who wants to wear a mask and continue to wear a mask, listen, I'm still wearing a mask in ShopRite. I probably should have been before this whole thing, but, you know, it's just, we all have to go at our own comfort level. And I do think, you know, we will look at our high school and look at our vaccination records and see by the time we open school, if we have a high percentage of high school kids vaccinated, then what is the difference of those kids going, you know,
To a restaurant?
into a restaurant or to a movie or to a concert outside versus coming into our schools when we know they are vaccinated? Listen, I'm looking out here. Nobody has a mask on here. I'm hoping you people are vaccinated because that's what we're banking on. You know, so I think this is something we have to look at through policy, through our board attorney, to look at both angles. Maybe they'll come out and say, no masks. Okay, fine, wear it if you want to. But if not, can we as a board and as a school district then give an opt-in or opt-out with parent consent?
That's a question for Matt Giacobbe.
Okay, can you find out for
Yeah,
us and
well,
get back to us?
we have the meeting
Right.
scheduled for 2 weeks from tonight, I think it is, so
Can you
that's-
add that to the list
I-
of the questions?
definitely.
Thank you.
I certainly hope by September there'll be no mask requirement.
I'm done with the mask, I
I
can't.
mean, I agree with Matt. I hope we just don't have masks in September, but
We
well, let's
gotta
work it through the
prepare.
paperwork, work through the policy, but I gotta believe they're gonna drop the mask. Last April or May, we decided we're gonna follow what the American Pediatrics said was in the best interest of the students, and I gotta believe that they're gonna come out and say, yeah, these kids don't need the mask anymore, or it's more stressful or more damaging to have them. So I know things will change on a daily basis, so maybe in parallel, we'll do a resolution, we'll check with our attorney, and we'll see what, you know, unfolds over the summer. But I really believe that they're going to drop the mask mandate across the state.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, at the youth camps right now, at least unvaccinated, vaccinated, any vaccinated individual, I believe, is mask optional. That doesn't help
help
with
us.
students
That
under
doesn't
12
help
years
Arcade,
old.
That-
But
that Arcade-
directionally,
Arcade
if you look at what I think they're doing in youth camps, I believe that's the
They
rule.
said it last week, Monday. No mask in camp.
No mask in camp. Yeah, I got to believe they'll drop the mask mandate. And again, my biggest concern is always K to 5, because those kids don't necessarily, fully understand an adult saying, oh, well, the CDC said this, or, the Department of Health in the borough said this. So if we can just continue down both parallel paths, as Michelle's asking, that'd be great. Any other comments from any of the board members? Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the regular agenda. I'm going to do personnel first in place of Ms. Ciccarelli. So I'd like to move action items 1 through 32 on the regular agenda, and then an amendment on number 3. And Beth, just correct me, on 27 and 28, are those additions or corrections? Okay, so 28 is 33. Is 27 32?
No, 27 is an additional item to the current resolution. The final item, number 28, was misnumbered, and it should be number 33.
That's fine.
Okay. Oh, I see that. Okay, so it goes in.
Got it, okay, you're just adding to it. Okay, perfect. So 1 through 32 on the regular agenda, 3, 27, and new 33 on the addendum.
Second.
Mr. Smith seconded that. Peter, do you mind just going around the table?
Sure, agenda items 1 to 32 with the addendum of 3, 27, and 33. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes to everything, abstain on 7.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 5-0 with the exception of A7 passes 4-0-1.
Perfect.
And that is a quorum, that is a majority of what we have, so it passes.
So that's fine. Okay, great. Matt, would you mind moving the finance and facilities?
I guess I'd like to move action items B1 to 33 on your regular agenda. Is there a second?
I second.
Some interesting ones. A PTO donation. Well, nice to see these coming back. A PTO donation to the Milton Avenue School in the amount of $20,000 to be used toward the purchase of an awning for an outdoor classroom. On top of that is a donation from Mr. Frank O'Neill in the amount of $10,000 in the honor of Miss Adele O'Neill, a former teacher at Milton Avenue School. The donation is to help with the purchase of that outdoor awning, so that's really nice to see. A couple others, the Blackboard Giving Fund to Lafayette Avenue School, $247 to be used at the principal's discretion. So this outdoor classroom seems like a pretty neat thing, initiative to do for all these different schools. So anyone who wants to do more $20,000 donations, please
I'm on
call
it.
Pete Discordia.
Excellent. Any questions for anybody on finance? Excellent. Peter, do you mind?
Sure, agenda items B1 through B33 and addendum item B34. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 5-0.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. Kenny, would you mind taking over for curriculum?
Yes, I will move for action item C1 to C3 for vote.
Second. Take your pick, Peter. Mike, just a quick question on number 3, Safe Returns in-person instructional plan. Is that just documentation that had to be put on file with the Executive County Superintendent?
Yes, so the state announced about a month ago the third stimulus package, which is known as ESSER 3. We did not receive any funding yet. We probably will receive funding. But every district in New Jersey, or 90% of them or so, 95% of them, I should say, has been notified of a dollar amount connected with their ESSER 3 funding. We're in the 5% that have not, because we don't qualify, none of our schools qualifies as a Title I school. However, there's a blanket requirement that the plan associated with that funding is completed and approved by June 24th. So we have a generic plan using the DOE template so that we can fulfill the requirement to be eligible for funding. And then once we find out what kind of funding we receive, then we can modify the plan, and it may end up on another board agenda in the future.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Peter, would you mind?
Sure, agenda items C1 to C3. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 5-0.
Excellent. Mr. Smith, on policy?
I'd like to move agenda items D1 to D3 to a vote. This includes the abolishment of that Federal Families First Coronavirus Act and the modification of the daily form we have to fill out.
I'll second.
Thank goodness.
I'll second that, Pete.
Sure. Agenda items D1 to D3, Mr. Gilfillan.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Smith. And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items pass 5-0.
Excellent. So we now are at the board business. I just want to make a comment. A lot of the board members volunteer their time in other areas. I just need to point out, and I could probably talk endlessly about each of them, but if I could just point out Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith was recently honored at the the New Jersey chapter for Autism Speaks. He has raised a tremendous amount of money, essentially single-handedly, and with his committee, and he was just honored this year. So I just want to thank you, Mr. Smith, for your volunteer work, your efforts, and you're in your third year. Is that a true statement, or am I making that up?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You're in your third year of your
No,
chapter?
I started it in 2013.
2013. Oh my
So
goodness.
we've done a
Excellent.
lot. This was kind of a culmination of a lot of things we've done, which included getting insurance in all 50 states and mapping the genome of autism, and we've done a bunch of stuff with the New Jersey chapter, so.
Oh, that's
very nice.
fantastic. So
Amazing.
thank
Plus, we
you.
had a big gala with 250 people and no masks. That was like,
250
started
people,
out
no
with the
masks.
fist bumps and everyone was hugging by the end. So it was nice to kind of
That's the booze
rip the
talking.
mask off, but
That's
thank you very
fantastic.
much.
So thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations and thank you. The other thing, Mike, I wanted to ask you about the new federal holiday that was added. Do we need to adjust our calendar?
Juneteenth, yeah.
It falls on a Saturday? No, Sunday next year?
Yeah, Mr. DeQuilla and I spoke about this today. It really isn't going to affect our schools, probably because we're usually done by June 19th.
Right.
But typically, we have, all of our contracts for 12-month employees have a certain number of vacation days. I believe it's 12, if I'm not mistaken, or holidays, 12 holidays. And usually because of when they fall, we usually have to put in an extra day someplace. So for example, this July 2nd and July 5th, we have 2 days off, even though there's only one holiday, July 4th. So in the out years, what we'll do is just ensure that June 19th we're closed, and then there won't be any fallout because we'll just adjust accordingly. Like if we had another July 2nd, July 5th,
Okay.
we would just make July 2nd a normal work day and keep July 5th as the holiday to observe July 4th.
Okay, perfect. Understood. Great, thank you. I just wanted to see how we're going to handle that for our staff. I did not have anything else. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Mike, I remember when we talked in August last year, I said to you, Mike, going into this year, don't think you need to be perfect or just be good. And I just want to say, I think you did pretty much as close to perfection as
I agree.
we can ask of you from the beginning all the way to the end. I think what you and the administration did every time, which was you scrambled every time they adjusted it to make it work, and you guys always had the kids' mind and the welfare of the kids as the primary goal in everything that you guys did. So I just think me personally, now that I'm an empty nester of Chatham, I want to thank you for those 13 years for my daughter, but I just think you guys and the administration go take a couple days off, get away from this stuff, and, just realize I don't think that there's anything that I could say from the perspective of a parent, not as a Board of Education member, is that you guys didn't do a great job. The administration did a great job, and I felt in running into teachers constantly as a teacher's intent was always to come back. So, from an administration, from a teacher's perspective, I know you guys always get the brunt of parents, but that being said, I think everybody in this district, from top to bottom, did a hell of a job through this whole thing. So to me, on behalf of the board, I think we need to give you a hell of a thanks.
Thank you, team effort, and likewise, couldn't have happened without you, so thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah,
And
you really
great job
pulled
the
the
other
rabbit
night
out
at
of the hat.
Oh,
graduation.
yeah. Like, 12 times a day?
Yeah, a rabbit out of a
I
hat.
think, though, oftentimes people come and they say,
Need a
they
vacation.
thank the board, and it's really, we thank you, because it's your leadership and your team and your principals and your custodians and from the bottom up, literally, that we didn't take the easy way out. And I think every kid in Chatham had the opportunity to come to school from the very first day, and that was not the norm across the state. And I think we almost set the standard, and it's because of the leadership. And we will not forget this, and thank you. And I can speak on behalf of my one child that was here and going, the days that he was in school was a better day than when he wasn't. And I think, we can't look, people who come and say, we almost got to the point that people are almost like taking for granted that we're in school at the end. I'm like, there are still schools that are closed. There are schools that never opened. And we opened when many schools were afraid to open. So thank you. And thank you to our teachers and to everybody, because I know it was unsettling in the beginning. But the confidence that you had with each day that they came, there was less fear and more learning and more comfort with each other. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mike, just a reminder, when is the meeting with Matt?
July 12th
July 12th.
at
Excellent.
6.
At 6 o'clock. Perfect. Thank you.
And we have
So-
a board meeting that night.
And we have no executive session, correct?
I just checked with Lana.
Excellent. Very
I'm
good.
like, I asked
Then
Lana,
I
she
make a
said
motion
no.
to close the public, oh, Peter. Oh, sorry.
Oh, public, more
Sorry,
public
sorry, I apologize. We have our second opportunity for public comments. I apologize for that.
I'm lighting this up right now.
Really, people very quiet.
You're it?
Just checking. I appreciated that this is Rez Estevez again. So I appreciated the discussion on the masks. Thank you very much. But I heard no discussion on the critical race theory part of it. So this was to perhaps make the call a little bit more clear, a call to have further visibility and further input on how this is woven unpleasantly and unwelcomely into school curriculum. So I wanted to ask the board, and we can continue this conversation in other venues, that this may not be the right venue to work it out, but the ask is, how do we go about that? How do we get into getting that visibility, vetting it out, ensuring that it is not overt or insidiously woven into curriculum? Because what this is calling for is ostensibly using racism to fight racism, and that makes no sense in no world. So the question is, how do we go about that, please?
So the next step for us would be to take this back in a curriculum and policy and then re-present it back. So we need to get a better understanding ourselves and work with our administration, and then we would come back at either the next meeting or the one after that. And typically, sometimes that grows up into to be a presentation, from, one of our staff members might come in and explain some of the curriculum, similar to how we've seen with Islam, similar to how we've seen with racism and equality. So the first step, Raz, is we're going to have to take that back to our curriculum committee and our policy committee and get a better understanding ourselves, and then report back out.
And report back out would be report back out to the community through the board and this channel?
Yes,
Right, okay.
that's all we've got.
And that would be at what point would parents have the visibility and the opportunity to collaboratively lay a hand to shape?
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait until we get an opportunity to talk amongst ourselves and then present it back out in July initially.
In July initially, right?
Yeah, July, at the next meeting is July, and then hopefully we can have additional discussions and see how it unfolds. So I
Right.
don't have an answer for you right now.
No, I didn't expect you would have an answer right now. I just didn't have a clear sense.
Sure.
Given the ask for greater visibility and discussion on this, what the next step would be, but that gives me a little bit of a Lego to attach the structure.
Okay, perfect. Very good, thank you. Any additional public comments? No? Okay, seeing none. Then I'd like to make a motion to close the public meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Drive safely. Appreciate you